Germany, 1971. The economic boom after the Second World War was in full swing. Supermarkets were springing up everywhere, each trying to outdo the other in terms of choice and convenience. In the midst of this retail revolution stood Theo Albrecht, a man whose name was synonymous with success in the cutthroat world of European retailing. Theo, along with his brother Karl, had built Aldi into a powerhouse, a supermarket chain that was redefining the rules of the game. Their strategy was simple, yet revolutionary. They focused on offering a limited range of products at the lowest prices, eliminating the need for extensive advertising and passing the savings on to the customer. It was a concept that seemed too basic to work, but somehow Aldi thrived. Their stores were always packed, their tills always ringing, and the brothers were always careful to stay out of the limelight, preferring to let their business do the talking. One evening, however, fate had something else in store for them. After a long day at work, Theo left the office and walked towards his car, totally unaware that he was being watched. A sleek black Mercedes 280 was parked close by, almost too close, mimicking the car that Karl drove. But there was no friendly wave from his brother waiting behind the wheel. Instead, Theo found himself face to face with three masked men, their eyes hard, their voices sharp. One of them shoved a gun into his chest, the metallic coldness seeping through Theo's clothes and straight into his bones. He had walked into a trap. The men roughly pushed Theo into the back seat of the car. Startled, he turned to see the driver and another man in the passenger seat. But it was when he glanced at the back that his blood ran cold. There, tied up and gagged, was his brother, Karl. It dawned on Theo with a sickening certainty that they were both in grave danger. The ordeal began with a drive through the darkened streets of Essen, the city where Aldi had humble beginnings. All the while, Theo struggled to comprehend what was happening, desperately hoping for a peaceful resolution. But as the car pulled to a stop in an isolated area, his worst fears were confirmed. This was no joyride. They had arrived at their destination, a deserted farmhouse that looked like it had seen better days. The men dragged the brothers out of the car and into the house, their faces hidden behind masks, their intentions clear. This was a kidnapping, and they weren't going to make it easy. Inside the house, the kidnappers threw Theo and Karl to the ground, the rough concrete floor biting into their skin. With swift, practiced movements, they tied the brothers up, their hands secured tightly behind their backs with rough rope. Then, as if to emphasize their power, the men placed a gag in Theo's mouth, muffling his screams and making him feel even more vulnerable. As the hours ticked by, the kidnappers divided the brothers, locking them in separate rooms, each dimly lit and smelling of decay. Every creak of the old house, every rustle outside, seemed to echo loudly in the silence, amplifying their fear and uncertainty. Just when the reality of their situation began to sink in, the kidnappers returned. Their faces were still hidden, but their voices now held a chilling calmness as they delivered their ultimatum. They wanted a ransom of 5 million Deutschmark, an enormous sum in the early 1970s, for the release of the Albrecht brothers. News of the kidnapping spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves across Germany. Headlines dominated newspapers, TV screens, and radio broadcasts, keeping the nation on edge. Everyone was talking about it. The rich recluse, the audacious kidnapping, the staggering ransom. The pressure was mounting on the Albrecht family. Releasing such a large sum of money was not an option, not only for financial reasons, but also because it set a dangerous precedent. But the stakes were high, and the clock was ticking. The kidnappers had given an ominous warning. If their demands weren't met, they would kill the brothers. Behind closed doors, intense negotiations were taking place, every minute bringing the possibility of a breakthrough or a tragic turn. Meanwhile, at the isolated farmhouse, Theo and Karl were enduring their captivity with stoic determination. They were well aware of the gravity of their situation. They knew that their lives were hanging in the balance. But in the face of such adversity, their true characters shone through. Karl, despite his own terror, was a pillar of strength for Theo, comforting and reassuring his brother as best he could. They shared stories, jokes, anything to keep the despair at bay. As days turned into nights, they clung to hope, praying for a swift resolution. But the kidnappers had other plans. They wanted to send a message, and they did so in the most brutal way imaginable. From the shadows, they watched as the police presence outside the farmhouse grew. More officers arriving, more lights flashing, more sounds echoing through the night. And then, as if in response to the rising tension, a shot rang out. It was a terrifying sound that shattered the silence and sent shivers down the spines of everyone involved. The kidnappers had made their point. No one should underestimate their ruthlessness. In the aftermath of the gunshot, the negotiations intensified. The family, the police, even the government were all involved in trying to secure the release of Theo and Carl. It was a Herculean effort, a race against time to save the brothers. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, an agreement was reached. The ransom would be paid. The details were finalized, and a plan was put into action. As the sun rose, casting its golden rays over the horizon, a convoy carrying the ransom arrived at the designated spot. It was a dramatic scene, a mix of tension and relief, as the heavy bags of money were exchanged for the two brothers. Theo and Carl, shaken but alive, were freed from their captors, their bodies bearing the marks of their ordeal. The kidnappers, their mission accomplished, vanished into the distance, leaving behind a community still reeling from the shock of it all. In the days that followed, the nation breathed a collective sigh of relief. The nightmare was over. Theo and Carl were safe, but the scars of the experience ran deep. The kidnapping had exposed the dark underbelly of their success, showing them that no amount of money or power can shield you from the evils of greed and desperation. Yet amidst the trauma, there was gratitude. The brothers had survived. The ordeal had tested their resilience, but it had also revealed the strength of their bond. They had faced unimaginable terror together and emerged even closer, more determined than before. But as the dust settled and the media frenzy died down, questions lingered. How had the kidnappers managed to lay such a perfect trap? How did they know the brothers' routines so well? And why were Theo and Carl specifically targeted? These questions sparked a series of investigations, each trying to piece together the puzzle of the bizarre kidnapping. What emerged was a tale of meticulous planning, highlighting the lengths to which the kidnappers were willing to go. They had studied the brothers' habits, knew their schedules, and anticipated their every move. It was a level of preparation that was both chilling and impressive. But who were these men who had orchestrated such a daring crime? Their identities, shrouded in mystery, only added to the intrigue. The motive, too, was far from straightforward. Yes, the ransom was substantial, but it wasn't the whole story. There was something more, something personal, something that drove these men to risk everything in this elaborate scheme. In the aftermath, the Albrechts took a step back, re-evaluating their security measures and their public profiles. But even in their withdrawal, their influence remained. Aldi continued to thrive, its success a testament to the business acumen of its founders. The company's reputation was slightly tarnished, but its core values remained intact, a promise to offer the best products at the best prices. As for the kidnappers, justice caught up with them. Through a combination of forensic evidence and keen police work, the authorities were able to piece together the clues and bring them to justice. The trial was a media sensation, with the public eager to hear the motives, the planning, the execution of what was one of the most audacious crimes of its time. Looking back, the kidnapping of Theo Albrecht stands as a stark reminder that no one is truly immune from harm, but it also celebrates the indomitable spirit of survival and the power of resilience. The story of the Aldi founder remains not just a tale of a traumatic event, but a testament to the strength of the human will, the tenacity of law enforcement, and the enduring legacy of a man who built an empire on simplicity and value.